Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
Myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday, the 7th of
October.
I'll have to get my month right there. Sunday the 7th of October 2018. And we have a few things to talk about on the list today. And our guests on the show tonight, as everybody knows, the Open Mind Conference is on in Waterford. It had to be postponed because we had the beast from the east that came over and dropped a whole ton of snow on the country. So it was moved to November the 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Myself and Steve are going to be talking on the Saturday morning at 9:30, I think around that time. So no late drinking for me and you, Steve. And basically we're going to be talking about the Open Mind Conference tonight. Now our guest that we have on the show tonight is Trevor Eivers and Helen Hensley and Andy Thomas. Now Andy cannot join us till about 8 o'clock. So what we'll do is we'll probably go to a musical break. 8 o'clock, bring Andy in, and then we'll have a chat and get into the Open Mind Conference. But we are going to be talking about a few bits and pieces that have gone on at the moment, especially in the States with the whole cabinet thing. I mean, that's so important, I think, to the deep state and the putting down the deep state, shutting them down. And a lot has happened there. So we're going to be talking to Trevor and Mary Helen about all them bits and pieces that have happened before we get Andy on at 8 o'clock. But before we do any more, let's find out what the communication channels are. Get me teeth in.
Okay, we're at communication channels, folks.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you very much, Mary. Yes, the OYM chat room can be found on the website, oymradio.com, and you will see all the relevant links there for the communications. You'll see the link there for the YouTube. You will see the link for email, and the email address is info@oymradio.com. As we have said before, if you're a new listener, and you want to just drop us a little email just to let us know where you're listening from in the world and what you think of the show. If you have any suggestions for guests or just a little bit of criticism or comment, always well received, that is the email address. You can also hook up with us on anti-social media Facebook, if you so wish. We're on there too. We're also on Twitter, and MeWe. The MeWe platform is a great alternative to Facebook, and we are on there as well. No ads, and not that mining your data or your data, so that's a great place to be as well. Also on the website there you will see some other links there for previous podcasts on shows we've done over the past 8 years, so do check those out as well. We also have a little donate button there also, if you fancy clicking that, maybe throwing a couple of euro or dollars or yen or Bitcoin, or well, not Bitcoin, but in the tip jar, that would be much appreciated too. And we also have the TuneIn Radio Link application, the app. The link there is on the bottom of the website as well. That's a free app you can stick on your iPhone or your smartphone and listen to us all day, every day. I forgot the phone number, 046 927 1212. That is the phone number from inside Ireland, and outside Ireland it's 00353 469 271212. There we go.
Fantastic. It's not always when you're just about to say something that your teeth fall out, you have to put them back in.
Yeah.
we're getting to that age. Right, okay, you're going to kick us off.
Yes, I am going to kick us off. With some news in from ehealthmags.com, and it says, let all terminal cancer patients try cannabis oil. Why is this important? Well, 1 in 2 of us, it says, will get cancer at some point in our lifetime, but right now patients are being denied drugs that could ease the pain or relieve side effects of chemotherapy because they are currently illegal. Cannabis oil and other cannabis-based medicines can be used to relieve the side effects of chemo, like nausea, and can help relieve severe pain. Everyone deserves to get the care they need, especially terminally ill cancer patients. Doctors should be allowed to prescribe cannabis oil to any patient that they think it may help. Yeah, well, I think we've been kind of campaigning for this for a long time, and we know they've done it in other countries, and they have actually given a license here to one lady to get the cannabis oil for her child. But we believe, and I'm sure everyone else knows, that if you want to try it, if you're terminally ill, you should be able to try anything. Well,
definitely. Well, phase 1 is all about getting the medical cannabis available for everybody. Whether they go to phase 2 and make cannabis legal for everybody, that's something else. I mean, it would be nice to be able to grow 6 plants of your own in your own back garden for your own purposes. That would be pretty good. I think they do that in Spain. It'd be great to do that over here in Ireland, but phase 1 would be just the medical cannabis, release that for patients so doctors can prescribe it. That would be a massive help for patients. Right, the article I have here is, according to John McAfee, the creator of McAfee antivirus software, he tweeted that the presidential alerts that went out last Wednesday are capable of accessing the E911 chip in your phones, giving them full access to your location, microphone, camera and every function of your phone. He said, "This is not a rant, this is from me, John McAfee, still one of the leading cybersecurity experts. Wake up, people." E911 chip, not as good as the E912 chip, I think.
No,
that makes you dinner.
It's far superior, yeah. Well, I mean, look, we don't know if this is genuine or not. Like a lot of things, they do pop up on the internet. And if you do a quick search on the internet for this information, you'll find some sites are saying, yeah, it's genuine and you should all be concerned, and they're telling you how to turn off this chip and all this carry on. Other sites are saying it's false. The one that just popped up here, Snopes.com. I don't know if Snopes.com is a reputable site or not, but they're saying that it's false. They're giving some reasons as to why. When you just, the first page, there's people saying that it's been verified. Other people are saying how to turn off the tracking chip. There's a lot of information there. At the end of the day, look, maybe it does work and maybe it doesn't work. Maybe you can be tracked. Well, we know you can be tracked. But look, at the end of the day, if you're going to have your phone on, then you can be tracked. If you're going to have your battery in your phone, you can be tracked whether the phone is switched on or not.
Let's put the other cap on, right? Let's say you were a deep state person, right? The whole idea of the presidential alerts, which they did go out as a test during the week and people did get them, is to inform the public, bypassing the mainstream media, of things that are going on. Now, if you were a deep state person, obviously you'd put out something out there like a rouge, like this thing about John McAfee, regarding the E911 chip, to worry people enough to actually maybe switch off the phone so you don't get the presidential alerts. There's always another side of the coin that you have to look at. And if the deep state are that kind of worried about things and the fact that this is being done by Trump, then maybe what they're trying to do is cause an alternative problem by getting people to switch off the phone so they don't receive it. And they come up with something, a rouge like this. So, there's another side of the coin there. I'm not saying that is the truth. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just being devil's advocate and speculating at the moment,
Well, I didn't get any messages, but then again, my phone is always switched off.
Yes. Yeah, it defeats the purpose of having a mobile phone.
I know.
It's more stationary than mobile, isn't it?
Well, it's been in the car since Friday, and I think the battery died over the weekend. I kept forgetting to take it out.
Right.
But look, I can always get you some self-addressed envelopes if you need to communicate with me.
Send it. Yes. And you might think we're joking over that.
Yeah.
That was something that was said to us. Right, you're next.
Yes, independent.ie. Garda suspended as part of investigation into alleged links with a criminal gang. Detectives have carried out searches of a Garda station as part of an investigation into alleged links between a Garda and a criminal gang, it says. The Garda at the centre of the investigation, who was originally from the southeast of the country, has since been suspended from duty. Last night, members of the National Bureau of Criminal Investigation, the NBCI, raided a Garda station in Limerick as part of the ongoing inquiry into a serving member. The Garda's home was also raided in a follow-up searches this morning. It says some 16 residential properties were subjected to searches earlier today, and a senior source told Independent that the long-running investigation is focused on a Garda falsifying documents for a Limerick crime gang operating in the county. The Garda at the centre of the probe has not been arrested as part of the ongoing investigation, and a guard is alleged to have been falsifying. We just read that one out already. No arrests have yet been made, and the investigation is still going on, the source said. So, basically, what do you think will happen? He'll get Honestly, of course he will. At the end of the day, look, you're reading that and you can probably visualise a picture that some guard got involved in something and he was basically, he's a human being. Either he's done it for one or two reasons. He's getting financial gain, or he was told you play the game or you or your family will be hurt.
Yeah.
Simple.
So he'll either get off on a technicality or they'll just slap him on the hand and say don't do it again, something like that.
Yeah.
How's your week?
Yeah, my week's fine. A continuation from last week. I was just saying to Alan there before we went on live, that last week I was talking about cars breaking down and different bits and pieces.
Technology breaking down.
Technology as a whole, I suppose, yeah. Well, my wife communicated with me during the... Why did I say she communicated with me? She's your wife. She's your wife. She shouted at me. Yeah. She's not lying, is she? No. She said to me, was it yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday. That washing machine's not working. And I went, oh no, not something else, please. What's wrong with it? She said it won't spin the clothes. So obviously it went through the motions, but it wouldn't spin the clothes. And then after a predetermined period of time, the door would unlock and you could obviously take out the clothes, which were, they were absolutely soaking. So it wasn't going through a spin cycle. So, jumped on the internet and seen how to do diagnostics and all this carry on and emptied the filter and got, the usual bits. I don't know, you probably don't get it here where you get hair clips and coins and all sorts of weird things end up in the filter. But I cleared that out and it didn't work, so I ended up having to, like a mechanic, I had to get under the washing machine. I had to get on my overalls and get the tools. So anyway, took the pump off the drain pump off the washing machine, and I got more surprised. There was a lollipop stick in there. And you're thinking, how the hell can a lollipop, a full-size lollipop,
yeah.
It was
Kids.
in there, yeah. And these things that you ladies wear in your hair, what are they called, like an elastic thing, a bobbin, I think is what it is. Is that a bobbin? I don't know. But there was one of them in there as well, and another coin. I think you get rich in these machines. Actually, that was 2 coins. So yeah, put it all back together again, and it's working again. So, that's good,
so
I suppose, in one sense.
So it's just technology breaking down, basically. I agree with you.
Yeah. And what else? Yeah, anyone who I want to thank everyone who for the wishes, the good wishes there last week. And I was home about my mother-in-law who had an accident and broke her leg/hip. The jury's still out on which it is. It's the bone going into the hip. So some people are saying it's the hip and some people are saying it's the femur. I think it's the femur, is it? I don't know. But yeah, she's out of the hospital. She's doing well. She's on a walking frame at the moment. She's living with us for the foreseeable. So that'll take a little bit of adjusting. But, we do get on, so it makes it all the easier. Yeah, that's kind of the state of play for my week at the moment. Nothing really else to report, because I know there's a lot going on that kind of we can touch base on, but yeah, we're going to cover it anyway within the next hour anyway. So yeah, how was your week? Yeah,
not too bad. Just before we bring in Trevor and we bring in Mary Helen, just something that seems to be doing the rounds at the moment. Again, there's so many scams and hackers and people wanting to get at your data and trying to get money from you and everything else. But this is going around. A lot of people have received this, by the way. And it said, the email is, my name is Way. Han27 is one of your passwords. Correct. I have the taped video of your webcam which shows your nasty sexual actions and clip you watched on the porn video, because that site was infected with my back door. In the tape, you happen to be appearing enticing. The malware also gave me access to all your Facebook and email contacts plus the recording. We'll send your video to your contacts unless you pay me $5,000 via Bitcoins and a whole load of information. Copy and paste it in. Once I get the money, I will delete your video and every bit of information I have about you. Yeah. If I do not get the money, I will send your recording to every contact of yours. Just imagine regarding the humiliation you feel. Do not forget, in case you are in an important relationship, just how this will affect you. Obviously, the English is a bit broken. If you want proof, reply yes, and I'll send your video to 7 of your contacts. And his name, best regards. He says, best regards. He says, way gross. So this is doing the rounds at the moment, and of course, we've not to hide. Our DVD, X-rated DVD, is going to be coming out soon, called Confessions of a Radio Host.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just all these kind of scams and ways to try and take money off you, and you just kind of get fed up with it. I have to say, and I said it to Steve, I'm spending more and more time trying to spend more and more time away from technology and enjoying doing stuff like in the men's shed, which is I'm part of, and making stuff with your hands, using drills and all that kind of stuff, and having a bit of fun with it, rather than just being around technology. You know, like I've been around technology a long, long time, and you kind of get fed up with it, you know, to a certain extent. So it's great that, you know, you can get away from it and actually start working with your hands, doing woodwork and all that kind of stuff, and making things that are of interest. It's just the way it is. But yeah, watch out for these scams, by the way, folks. It's just ridiculous. And if you see any videos of me or Steve or webcam footage, and it looks good, and it's a sleek body and bodies of Adonis, I'll say that's me. Yeah, I'll take that. Okay, let's get our guests on the show. Right. We have, at the moment, as I say, Andy Thomas won't be joining us till about 8 o'clock. So at the moment we have Trevor Eivers and Mary Helen Hensley, who are going to be, Trevor is one of the organisers of the Open Mind Conference, and Trevor and his team, and Mary's going to be speaking at the conference, as are we, on a Saturday morning. So good evening, Trevor and Mary Helen. How are you doing?
Hello.
Great. Hello, guys.
Good stuff. How are you doing? Listen, thanks a lot for coming on and having a chat with us. Trevor, we're going to, we'll get into the Open Mind Conference when Andy comes on, because there's no point repeating things over and over again. When Andy comes on, we'll get into it. But basically, if you just want to, for people who've not been on the planet and been off the planet, because I'm sure everybody knows about the Open Mind Conference, but just in case they don't, just give us a little synopsis of it, and then we'll go into it in more detail when Andy comes on.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for inviting me on, guys, and appreciate you spending a show focusing on this great event. So we're only a couple of weeks to go, and like the conference is like there's something for everyone at the conference, whether you're a knowledge seeker, truth seeker, free thinker, activist, and basically there's something for everyone. We cover a wide variety of topics and subjects, and it's a great...
Oh, it's a great something.
Great something. Yeah.
Trevor, we've lost you, Trev.
Mary Helen, are you there?
I am.
Yeah, okay, we lost Trevor there. I don't know. I know I was speaking to Trevor earlier on, and the Skype was working fine. And I know when Trevor was doing an interview with Mick from Liffey Sound that there was audio problems there for some reason. So I don't really know why we're having this issue now when half an hour ago we were okay. Are you okay, Trevor? Yeah, anything happened there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We don't know why you dropped out.
Yeah, I'm not sure myself.
Okay, well, listen, you know, half an hour ago it was working fine, and we were chatting to each other. So let's just put it down to the powers that be don't want you talking. Okay, let's leave it that way.
Maybe. You never know.
So
you never know.
So just go back into what you're saying there. You tell us about the conference and
yeah, it's basically something in it for everyone. Instead, like whether you're a truth seeker, knowledge seeker, free thinker, activist, it's 3 days packed with truth, knowledge, and awareness. And it's a great platform for like minds to connect. Can't wait. It's going to be a fantastic event. Come along, get your ticket.
Brilliant stuff. And there's going to be loads of speakers. It's over 3 days, starts on the Friday, and of all different subject matter. So, you know, there's going to be a subject there for, you know, depending on who you are. There might be some subjects you're not interested in, but there'll be something there for everybody. And it could be. And also you have other things on outside, like yoga and things like that.
That's right. I mean, you have everything from exposing corruption to health and well-being, geopolitics, conspiracies, spirituality, like everything but the kitchen sink, Alan.
Brilliant. Well, that's what it's all
everything
about.
Everything but your kitchen sink. Yeah,
that's it.
And like, I mean, the focus as well is to keep the energy high over the weekend. So we also have the balance there, including all the speakers. We have meditation, we have yoga, we have drumming, and we have music. So it's going to be a fantastic, uplifting experience and something in for everyone. We can't wait.
Brilliant. And these are great platforms and great ways to meet like-minded people, because we do get emails coming in from people saying, God, I'm very isolated where I am. I'm actually in a village and there's very few people open-minded and I'm kind of on my own. I've nobody to talk to about this. And well, these are the like the Open Mind Conference is the ideal place to go to meet like-minded people and not be afraid to actually speak your mind, because you're going to be speaking with people that are open-minded anyway in all kind of shapes and sizes. Obviously, depending on how far you're down the road, down the path of knowledge will depend on who you speak to, because obviously if people are speaking about, are open-minded about water meters and smart meters, you don't want to go and talk to them about anything that's, you know, celestial, because they probably won't have got that far or understand that side. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Now, Mary Helen, good evening. You are going to be one of the speakers on the show. You were on the Basis Conference as well. You spoke at the Basis Conference with us as well, didn't you?
I did indeed, yeah.
Excellent. So what's your briefly just what your chat is about, and then we'll get more into it when we get Andy on. But if you want to just give us a heads up on what you're planning to cover.
I have to ask Trevor. I think my official title is Bringing Death to Life, since that's the book we just released. But I would be covering a wide variety of topics in my given time slot. I can cram a lot in a short space of time, guys.
Good stuff. Okay.
Yeah, it all kind of ultimately boils down to, you know, that this reality is not all that we have. That we as human beings already are that which we seek, and going into my personal experiences as to how I know that and why I believe that, and just making an open forum for people to discuss things that have happened to them. And again, you know, with this particular type of subject matter, when we're talking about anything from spirituality to life beyond death to, you know, aliens to you name it, there's always a new group of people waiting to come out of the closet. One thing I have found over the years is every time I write something new or every time I go public with another subject, there are a host of people who are so relieved because their standard go-to is, well, I don't ever talk to anybody about this because people will think I'm nuts. And I'm like, you know, if you realize that the vast majority of people are saying that same thing, y'all all need to start talking, because none of you are nuts and you're all saying the same thing. It's getting people out there and into an open conversation. So I just think weekends like this are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, we've been doing the radio show 8.5 years now, but we've been open since 2001. And I think we can safely say, Steve, that we have seen a big increase in people waking up over the years.
We have. I mean, yeah. You look at the shows and look at the stats. I mean, a lot of the times people may not know, but when we're kind of doing our thing here, there is a page that is open that will give us an insight as to how many people are actually listening in or tuning in on some of the various platforms. And we have noticed over the years the numbers going up and up and up. I mean, there was one show, I can't remember who it was, could have been early this year or probably late last year, where the server actually crashed. There were so many people tuning in. So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely getting out there. And everyone who comes on OYM, like tonight, we'll say, there are people around the world listening to you, and if they're not catching the live show, they're catching the podcast. So the word is definitely getting out there. And, you know, hopefully that will be reflected on the day when we actually arrive in the venue. Hopefully there'll be a lot of people there, you know, open-minded individuals who, you know, are just want to be with other open-minded individuals, because we've said it before, when you're actually in a room and you're in conversation with like-minded people, it's electric. It really is.
Yeah, I kind of just say it's all about the ripple effect. And, you know, we're going to have a packed weekend. It's going to be a packed house in a couple of weeks. And it really is like your conference, you know, it's everyone's conference. And as Mary Helen said already, I mean, these events, you know, are fantastic. I've heard Mary Helen speak before, as I've heard Andy and a lot of the speakers, and just fantastic. And, you know, these events, the world needs more events like this. I mean, like you have the Glastonbury Symposium in the UK, you have the AV Alternative View in the UK. So I think these events are growing. And it's great to be basically getting all this knowledge and awareness and meeting like-minded people and, you know what, discussing these topics and subjects without fear of ridicule or be called nuts and everything else, you know.
Well, I think the tide has changed. I think we're getting to the stage now that the tide has changed, and people are now kind of questioning what's going on. And this is what I want to talk about, because Mary Helen, you're obviously originally from America, and there's an awful lot going on with the Kavanagh issue. Now, this is my understanding of it, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, please correct me either on the chat room or if Trevor or Mary Helen, you know what's going on, but basically this is my understanding of it, that Trump wants to instigate martial law, but for a short period of time, because that makes him in control of the rules to clean up the deep state, and he needed Kavanagh on board to initiate the actual martial law. He needs them in. So obviously the deep state are panicking because they don't want them in there, because they know what will happen when Kavanagh gets in. Obviously he's in now. He got the vote and we know he's in. And now the deep state are in a panic because Trump is going to call immediate or near enough immediate martial law temporarily to actually do some arresting and cleaning up. And what they're saying is that there's been something like 1,700 troops have gone down to Guantanamo Bay, along with some military judges for these military trials. And John McCain, who, you know, they gave him an option. And I don't know whether there was a Freudian slip on one of the senators who said it, but they said John McCain was executed. He didn't mean to say it. He came out and it slipped out that he was executed. And basically what people were saying about John McCain is they gave him two choices. He was going to be executed anyway, but they gave him two choices, and the first choice was to actually, if he told them everything about. Actually, the first choice was that he was going to get executed, and that everybody would be showing exactly how much a traitor he was, and his life and everything that he did, all the dirty deeds that he did, it'd all go out into the general public. That was option number one. Option number two was that wouldn't happen because of his family. So they said, we can protect your family, and as far as people are concerned, that you are a war hero and you died of a brain tumour, and that's it. But he had to sing like a canary, and basically he did. So he sung like a canary. They did execute him, and basically this is why the deep state are in a massive panic at the moment, because they know that with Kavanagh gone in now, that there's going to be all these what do they call them? The reports that they have, they're going to expose. No. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I forget the name. Indictments. All these indictments that they have, they're going to be releasing, and there's going to be mass arrests. So, Trevor, what's your take on that?
Yeah, like it's interesting, and like I'm not fully researched on the subject. I think, you know, it's like a symptom of there's big changes happening behind the scenes, and I think this is going to continue over the next, you know, into the next few weeks and months, and you know, I just have to see what happens and see how it plays out. But definitely, I mean, I'm still like on the fence with kind of Donald Trump, and you know, whether he's good or bad, or whether he's going to drain the swamp, and maybe that's part of this. I don't know. And I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but you know, try to keep an open mind on the different viewpoints. But I don't know really. Do you know? What's your take on it, guys?
Well, Mary Helen, what's your take on it?
You know, from the beginning, from the get-go, the role that he plays, I can't stand. I loathe that type of character. However, from a soul or spiritual perspective, I also am very aware that, you know, the divine is present in all situations. It's not just when we pick and choose. It's always there. You can't claim it when things are going your way and then not claim it when things are getting rough. I believe firmly with all of my heart that the divine is present in all things. Therefore, I believe that this character of Trump is being used to highlight some changes that need to be made across the board in our country. I wouldn't give him the credit for being conscious that he's doing this, but as far as being able to see the bigger picture and what the divine is doing, I can see it. Simply by every breath he takes and by every move he makes, he is highlighting the nastiest parts of who we are as an American people. And it's bringing it to the forefront. And the only way to create those changes is for them to be highlighted. And change like that is never comfortable. We have been through, for women and for me as a woman in particular, watching this take place, it's been rough. I won't pretend to say that it didn't strike a chord with me emotionally, because I actually put a video out last week because I knew there were a lot of people who were suffering with this, because there are an awful lot of women, and I'm just going to use women as the example. I do acknowledge and accept and understand that there are so many men who have been through trauma of a sexual nature. I get that. But in this particular case, because of the trial that we're speaking of, as a woman, one of the things that the jeers and the finger pointers, it's almost comical watching them stand together as a front. You've got him and then the lineup behind him, and they snicker and sneer. One of the things that they were finger pointing about was the fact that how could somebody wait so long to say something, that this in some way invalidated this woman's experience. And so I actually went on and I made a video. There's no secret whatsoever, because I've written about it and I've spoken, oh my God, for 25 years about the fact that when I was still in high school, that I went off to check out a particular college that my father had wanted me to check out. And I came from a home where there was no drink. There was no alcohol. It wasn't because of religious. My dad was a health nut. My mom just never drank. And so, of course, when I got let loose and I was a high school senior and had gone into this college party to go view this school, I found myself before 10 o'clock that evening drinking vodka out of an IV bag. And, I was quite the sight. And so, of course, not having been an experienced drinker, I was absolutely hammered. And so when I was being flirted with across the room and a guy asked me to go down the hall, I went because I had no other choice but to go, because I was so ossified that I didn't know what I was doing. And so, long story short, I was raped not by one, but by two individuals. And so, as a teacher, as an author, as a speaker, I've been able to assist so many people through this type of experience, because I can literally speak about it like the cup of tea I'm drinking right now. It doesn't have an emotional charge for me. I've done the work and I have the understanding necessary around that, but I know there are a lot of people who haven't. But one of the interesting things, and the reason that I put this video out, was because when they were making fun of this woman for the fact that, oh God, yeah, right, you're just going to talk about it now. Well, there are many different reasons why people do that. And in my case, I had to finally sit my parents down when my book was coming out in 2009. I sat my parents down just before it because I knew that rape story was in there, and neither of my parents knew. And the reason that they didn't know was because when I was 17, my father had just taken on a job as the headmaster of a private school, and it was an enormous change for our family, for the good. It meant more money. It meant, as far as social status goes. But my dad was a great motivator. He was a brilliant fundraiser. He was an incredible, incredible orator. And this job really allowed him to shine. This was him at the pinnacle of his career. And this job offered him all of the things that, that were good points in his personality and in his working capability. It brought them all together, and it was in one package. And this was such a big deal for him, and he was so excited. Now, anybody out there who's listening who's been a father or a parent, imagine if your little girl, the light of your life, came home and told you, regardless of the circumstances, that she had been raped. Now, the first thing that went through my mind was that I had one of two choices. I was either going to have to lie to my father and say I didn't know who did it, because I did, because I saw them both. The bathroom light was on in the dark room, and I knew exactly, I'd walked into the room with one of them, and I saw the face of the other one by the light of the bathroom. And I would either have to lie about knowing who did it, or I would have to keep it to myself, because I knew that my father would absolutely go nuts, like any daddy would. And that the first thing he would do would be jump in the car and go to these people and rip the heads off them. And I really, at 17, with the limited life skills and tools that I have, I feared for our family, because I thought that what had happened would cause my dad to lose it, and that he would go and do bodily harm or worse to these two. And any daddy out there, I think, can relate to that. And so because of that, I found my own healing. I had to find my own way through that. I ended up going to that college because initially I wanted those two boys to see me suffer, or not suffer. I wanted them hanging on the edge of their seats, looking at me every single day, wondering, was I ever going to tell on them? And part of the way through that, thank God, my higher self stepped in, and I realized that I was just as captivated, not as a victim of the rape, but as a victim of my need to see them see me be okay. And I let all of it go. And so I had a tremendous experience of growth and expansion because of that. But I can look back now, and if I have someone who comes to me who maybe doesn't have that kind of understanding or that connection with letting go, or the knowledge that no one can hurt who we really are, you can totally see how they wouldn't have told. And if the circumstances were just right, that they finally would come, and many people would go to the grave with it. So I needed to go public with that so that people could see that the woman that they were making so much fun of, because she had held on to that knowledge. I know tons of people who've done that. Tons and tons of people, unfortunately. And so, that was one angle of this entire thing for me, was I really felt on such a core level for some of the women that were watching this take place, and it had been so difficult for them because of different personality types. And, I'm very boisterous, and I'm like, whatever, I could run for president tomorrow and nobody's got anything on me because I've written about all of it. I have 0 skeletons in the closet. I've danced with all of them. I've put them on Facebook. I've written books with them. So I'm okay that way, but I know that's me, and that everybody isn't like that. And there are some people who are extraordinarily private, and some people who are very traumatized by the things that happened to them in the past, that this trial was bringing up at a very, very deep level for them.
Okay.
Yeah, so on that end, that's kind of where I've been with it all week long.
Okay, well, I mean, we're not going to take away the fact that if that happens, a woman or a man, it can be very sensitive and cause issues. The issue that what people are saying, no, I'm not saying this, I'm saying from what I've seen and what I've been watching, is that the evidence doesn't stack up, and that the people are saying that she's actually, number one, not a doctor, number two, that she's has been trained and programmed by the CIA, and that was helping people to actually pass lie detector tests. And even her ex-boyfriend came in and said, well, she's lying. So now this is what I'm not saying. This, I'm just saying this is what people are saying about the case. Now, I don't want to dwell on this, but what the problem with it is that if something then has happened to her, really, like if Kavanaugh was involved, then obviously that needs to be addressed. But on the other hand, which is always two sides to the story, if she has been programmed to do this, and to actually lie, to actually stop Kavanaugh from getting in because of the bigger picture, which is the deep state, then that's a major issue, because then she's lying about something that didn't happen, and that's the other side of it. So there's two sides to the coin, and again, we're going to have to see what transpires. But according to, obviously, what has transpired is Kavanaugh's got in. So maybe the people that needed to look at the information on her side just said, sorry, it doesn't stack up, so it's it's unprovable. Now, as I say, this is what I'm saying on the video, and this is what people are saying. I'm sure they've done their due diligence and went through all the reports and did all the research on it, and hence why Kavanagh got in. But there's always a bigger picture, and this is the thing with the deep state. You have to, we've time and time again, we do these interviews and we talk to people on the show, and there's all these different levels, and it depends on how high the level you want to go to and what you're dealing with. Now, we know that the deep state is all about control, manipulation, and what they're doing to the world and everything else. And they will do literally anything, and they have done literally anything to control and not relinquish their power. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that they would use somebody, regardless of who they are, whether they're programmed or manipulate them or threaten them or whatever, to actually lie, to actually get what they want. So I'm not saying it didn't happen to her. I'm just saying possibly that's the other side of the coin. And obviously Kavanagh's got in, so the people who've actually looked at the evidence obviously didn't feel that it stacked up enough to actually to move forward with it. So
I think that's really interesting, and it's going to be fascinating to watch, as an observer, because it's kind of like someone who's a secret spy and then someone who's a double secret agent. Because the other thing that you're going to see as a result of this is I say you're going to see the highest female turnout in voting in history, which is very interesting, because if you look at the direction that the vast majority of those female voters, what direction they're going to vote in, it's going to make for a very interesting November. Let me put it that way.
And I totally agree. But again, if you look at both sides, if the women come out and they don't do the due diligence and look at the evidence, and they're just basing it on what they perceive to be right, by all means, if it is true, and the evidence stacks up. So far, what I've seen is the evidence doesn't stack up. But if the evidence does stack up, then fair enough. The women come out and they do the vote. But if this doctor, whatever her name is, Ford, is actually is lying purely because of the deep state and they want control because everyone is scared at the moment, then the women will be voting on the wrong information, on a lie. And that's
and that's different than history in the States. How?
Well, yeah. Well, look, politicians lie all the time. We know that, and I totally agree.
But historically, we're emotional voters. We're not factual voters. We vote on emotion.
But the problem is that vote will actually play straight into the hands of the deep state. And if it is wrong, and then the deep state get what they want because they know people vote on emotion, then obviously, all the good stuff that has been done or is trying to be done is going to be undone because they're voting based on a possible lie. Again, you have to look at the evidence. So I'm just, sitting on the fence and just calling it the way I see it. I'm looking at both sides, and that's what you have to be careful of. So people might vote on emotion, but they have to say, okay, hang on a minute, before I vote, I want to check the evidence. I really want to have a look at the evidence to see, is this true or is it not? You
happen to mention the number one way that most Americans would verify that would be on what you mentioned before, which is Snopes. Go do a little research on Snopes, and it'll rock your socks.
Yeah, no, Steve just called that up just as a matter. I'm talking about proper investigation. I'm talking about cross-reference and stuff, not just looking at one website.
Not going to do that.
I know, and that's the problem. You're right. The average American probably won't do that. They'll just vote on emotion and he won't do the research, and that's a concern. Trevor, what's your take on it? How do you feel about it?
I don't know enough about it to comment. I've been so busy the last couple of weeks, to be honest, guys, organising the Open Minds conference, that I haven't had much spare time to be researching these topics. I've been more interested in the accusations against Ronaldo. I don't know if you're aware of those as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting to me that Ronaldo in the past has spoke up for Palestine. Now, whether like they're connected or not, who knows? But is it a coincidence? Don't know. But just bringing it back, I suppose, to the Open Minds Conference, like as you said, like, you know, it's an opportunity over the weekend for people to start thinking for themselves and discussing these topics. And, you know, it's going to be like such a wide variety of subjects and topics and different views. And you know, sometimes, like, you know, even us talking here, like, we can agree to differ on these things, because, like, even going by the last referendum here in Ireland, you know, the abortion referendum,
yeah,
it seemed as though, like, I mean, you know, there's no respectful debate anymore. You know, people are getting offended and falling out, and you know, so I mean, one of the principles of the Open Minds Conference is that you don't have to agree with what every speaker is saying. You know, different speakers will resonate with different people, and that's okay. You know, because there's a lot of divide and rule. Like, a lot of these things are kind of, you know, yourself. Especially the referendum, and you know, like, I've been keeping an eye on the presidential campaign here in Ireland as well.
Yeah.
And how Gemma Doherty has been kind of phased out, or blackballed, should I say, by the local councils. Mm. So, like, there's a lot going on, you know, and you know, I have kind of, from my sources, like, people, you know, it appears to be like a lot of negative stuff, but I think, you know, as Mary Helen said already, I think, like, there's a huge wave of change, and like, sometimes there has to be pain in order to achieve that change.
Well, I always say that we're going through the birth canal at the moment, and that's the pain. And then, because there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I know there's a question that's come in for Mary Helen here. So, Steve, if you want to pass that over to Mary Helen, and it's on the chat room there.
Yeah. Did I get it already?
I don't know. Do you have it already?
Question from Mary Helen.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Indeed. We're doing the questions now.
Yeah, okay, go on.
Right,
we're going to get Andy on at 8. So
right, a question from Chris to Mary Helen. Do we really have free will? As some people must be villains to help other people grow. Are the nasty people in this world just fulfilling their roles?
Okay. In the latest book that I have coming out, since we've just released this Bringing Death to Life, I had to hold off on this other one, which is actually my favorite book that I've written so far. It's called Understanding is the New Healing. And I decided to put something at the end that I kind of debated, would I, wouldn't I? But you know what? Who am I to hold on to that kind of information? I had an experience, and it was in 2012, and I was in Glasgow, and it was this very kind of surreal moment where my agent was with me, and she had run into a friend of hers, an older woman who was absolutely lovely, and we were going to meet her for dinner. And so picture this. I walk into this restaurant, and your woman, she'd gotten there earlier. She's sitting there at the table, and I look to my left, and there's Louise Hay. And then I look to my right, and Dr. Wayne Dyer is walking by talking to Brian Weiss, and Anita Morjani is sitting, you know, at a few tables over. It was the most surreal moment. These big players in the world of spirituality, and self-help, motivation, etc. And so I walk over and I sit at this table with my friend's friend, and this lady was easily in her mid to late 80s. And she had gone ahead and ordered before we did, and it was actually very funny because she looked kind of like your granny. She was wearing a cardigan and a shirt and trousers and a little crumpled, and, you know, there was a bit of tomato sauce on her shirt, or, you know, it was that kind of a thing. And she had this gigantic steak dripping off the sides of her plates, and she had this slugging it back with a big glass of red wine. And I sat down next to her, and she says, "I want you to close your eyes for me." And I said, "Okay." Remember, I've never met this woman before. And she put something in my hands, and she goes, "What do you think that is?" And I immediately said, "It's not from this world." And she said, "Correct." And she said, "Now open your eyes and have a look." Well, the thing was about the size of a very large hockey puck. And Anyone who's read my material knows that I have a series of symbols listed in one of my books that came to me many years ago that are actually a pre-Atlantean alphabet called the Goet alphabet. And they're a series of storage symbols. They work holographically, and they store history on this planet pre-13,500 years ago. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But when the woman asked me to open my eyes and I looked down, there sat these symbols around the edge of this piece of material that was not from this planet. And I just looked at her and I was like, where on earth did you get this? And she goes, I didn't. It's not from here, like you said. And I went, yeah. And she goes, listen, we've been very interested in your work. And I was like, we? Who's we? And so she went on to tell this story that literally had me picking my jaw up off the floor. There's part of me that it didn't surprise, but the other part of me was just absolutely in shock. And so she explained that she worked on the team that allowed us to carry out our soul plans here on the earth plane. And so this team consisted of an incredible duality or dichotomy of dark and light, neither one being better than the other, both being necessary for what happens on this planet. And we have such a habit, because we love the happy endings and we want everything to be good and well and happy and comfortable, that we like to talk about angels and the presence of angels in our lives, and or, this particular intervention or this guide or this deceased loved one stepped in and intervened and did this and that. And she said, and don't you think that there are other beings that come in to help create that which we call negative, those experiences that we find most challenging, but the ones yet where we grow the most? And I just sat and listened. I said, yeah. And she gets kind of like a cruise director. You get on a ship and you have a certain agenda as the passenger that you want to accomplish, and a cruise director is there to help you do all of those things. And she said, is it that hard for you to accept that there are angels unaware and that there are other beings walking the planet who are there to help human beings accomplish what they came here for? And sometimes that means something that's painful or bad or what we perceive as dark, in order to make it to the next level, to that growth and understanding of the fact that, we are a divine, loving, supreme being that has come into a human form in order to experience through the five senses. And I was speechless. And so I included this story in the book because I really felt like it was something that needed to be addressed. And any of the early readers who read that manuscript, that's the one chapter they always comment back on, always. And what's so interesting is that after that, we became kind of email pals, and we would email back and forth. And she would go pay attention to the news and such. And basically what she described herself as was a professional shit stirrer. She would go into certain situations. She had multiple passports. She was 85 plus, and she looked like somebody's granny, so nobody ever suspected her. And that she would say, she'd go watch Syria in 2 weeks or whatever, and then there'd be some kind of an uprising. So basically what she was saying was that she had some part in stirring the pot and creating change, and that was the team she worked for. And that team was no less important than those that we consider the heralds of good or the champions of peace and joy and love. And it was probably one of the most mind-blowing experiences that I've ever had in my life.
Did she say where she is from?
She had a British accent. That's all she had. But then what was very interesting was that we had email chats, of course, off and on for a couple of years. And then one day I get an email from a lady that said, we see that you are on her close contact list, and so we regret to inform you that your dear friend has been run over by a black SUV at an airport in Syria. And I was just like, what? And in the back of my mind, the first thing I was thinking of was I thought she worked on that side. It was it was crazy, but this is true. I mean, this is what happened. And this is what she said. And I have had so many other experiences that have verified enough for me, for me to believe and know that there is a distinct element of truth to that.
Okay, well, Mary Helen, keep that thought there. We're going to, Andy's available now, so we're just going over to a quick musical break. We're going to bring Andy in, and then we'll be back to you in a few minutes.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and UnitedWeStrike.com.
Okay, and we're back, and we're getting around, so we are.
We are getting around on our surfboards. We have Andy Thomas. Andy's just joined us, and Andy's going to be one of the speakers at the Open Mind Conference as well. Good evening, Andy. How are you doing?
Hello. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you.
Great stuff. Andy, we just had a chat with Trevor and Mary Helen at the start, just getting heads up on the conference and what Mary Helen will be talking about. So do you want to give us a synopsis of what you're going to be talking about at the conference?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm trying to sort of give a clarity to what some people would call conspiracy theory. So let's go with that term for now. And as I'm sure you know, there's a lot of misunderstanding out there about what it's all about. And even amongst people that, are well versed in this kind of stuff, sometimes I think it's easy to lose context. So what I'm going to do, I'm giving two presentations. The one I'm doing on the Saturday is going to be looking really at the history of conspiracy theories and going right back in time to the Roman Empire and upwards to stuff that people will be very familiar with, just to show that, the stuff that some people like to tell you is all new, conspiracy theories, all a load of modern rubbish, it isn't. It's always been with us. There have always been people who have doubted authority, who've always asked questions that they weren't meant to ask. And you'll see certain patterns. So that first presentation, I'm going to look at the patterns of belief in conspiracy and, of course, some of the evidence and showing very good reasons why people do believe there are conspiracies. And then on a Sunday, I'm going to be widening that out to see how that all fits with stuff that's going on right now. Because, of course, there's a lot of issues, a lot of freedom of speech issues, a lot of worry about control and surveillance, and I'm going to be sort of looking at, how this is all coming together in here and now, and hopefully give some positive thoughts about what we can do to combat it and put some positive energy in to balance it all out. So there we go, something on those lines.
Well, that's brilliant, because obviously what myself and Steve are doing is we look at the psychology of the waking up process. Because normally what happens is when people first wake up, as we all know and as we've all done, I'm sure, we wake up and we peek behind the curtain and we go, I want to get more of this, I want to do more research and look into this information. And then we go to our friends and family and go, hey, look at this, and they're just not bothered, or we're called conspiracy theorists. So myself and Steve said, okay, that's just the wrong way to do it. We have to do it a different way. So we formulated what we called the fluid belief system. Now, this has probably been around for a long time. We've just called it this ourselves, but I'm sure it's been around before. But basically, we approach it from a psychological point of view, and it doesn't matter whether, it's not about the content. Whether the moon is made out of cheese is irrelevant. It's the whole idea is, how does the person actually approach things that challenges their belief system? That's what our fluid belief system is all about, and about having your belief system fluid, so you're willing to change, that you're not stuck in a pattern. Because we all know that if you step outside your comfort zone, you're going to learn. If you stay inside your comfort zone, you're not going to learn, or you learn very little. So we go into the psychology of the child mind and the adult mind and stuff. And I know Aisling Fitzgibbon, the girl against fluoride, she's doing something. She's going to be talking to something on the similar line as well. So, and it's great that we're all this information is coming together over the 3 days. That and I'm sure myself and Steve would be sitting down, listening to other people talk and getting a heads up on the information they have and swapping ideas. And again, the radio show, I suppose, is good for getting the likes of Trevor, Mary Helen and yourself on, Andy, to actually talk about these subjects and expand on the subject matter as well. Because sometimes you do the conference, you have an hour or so and you're off stage, and I suppose with the radio show we can get you on for an hour and a half or so, and then we have their chat rooms. People can jump on and ask questions as well. So while the three of you are on, we're saying to our listeners, if you want to ask a question, pop along to our chat rooms. You have the OYM chat room and you have the chat room on People's Internet Radio, and leave any questions there. So what we'll do is, Steve, I'm going to pop over to you if there's any questions that have come in. Is there any questions at the moment?
There is actually, yeah.
Okay.
There's a question in from Chris. Thanks, Chris, and it is for Andy. And Chris says, I read Andy's book, The Truth Agenda, when it came out in 2009. Does Andy think we're in a better place, or the world is a better place almost a decade later?
Oh, what a good question. I think it's some and some, as ever. I think what we do have is there is a greater awareness of these issues that, you've referred to there, and I really like your approach to this whole way of fluid thinking. And I think maybe what has also changed is that the people who are studying stuff like this, like yourselves, like all of us here on this show, there's an understanding that you can't just shake your fist at people and say, here's the truth, you must believe it, because of course people resist that. The minute you tell somebody they must believe something, they're not going to want to listen. So I think there has been a much sort of more, if you like, intelligent approach creeping in of people realizing that what you do is you share alternative truths. I hate that, alternative facts, but you share these in a way that you're not telling anybody to believe it, but you're saying, here's why I think this should be discussed. And I think there has been a move towards a more inclusive feel. I mean, if you go back to like the sort of 2009 years or before that, a lot of people were calling everyday folk the sheeple. And, it's on one level, it's a convenient sort of tag to call them sheeple, but I always felt that was very unfair because it doesn't show compassion towards people who may not have been given a glimpse into other stuff that's important. And we need to always understand that if somebody's been trained to be a sheep, it's because they've fallen into a trap, and we need to help to open a door and be very compassionate to where they're at, rather than dismissing them as stupid. And I have seen a shift there. I mean, there's always going to be that element out there, but where, people are still trying to force their beliefs. But that's one very good thing. In terms of the world, listen, there's always good stuff, bad stuff going on. We've got a long way to go. And, I mean, the Truth Agenda book was a way to try to show another way forward as a way of getting this stuff out there. It's a long process. It's not going to be achieved overnight. But I do see some hope. There are many serious issues to be concerned about. But in terms of that, working together, understanding that we need to reach out to people and not shake our fists at them, that is something that I've seen change, and I hope that will go ever more that way.
Yeah, well, I mean,
there, guys.
Yeah, go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, just on what Andy was saying there, I mean, Andy knows himself because Andy's one of the co-organisers of the Glastonbury Symposium, which is a very similar conference to the Open Minds Conference. I'm sure you'd agree, Andy. And one of the challenges is like not to be preaching to the converted, I guess. And that's kind of like, it's been said to me once or twice. So I'd like to think the Open Minds Conference is also for people that, just someone that is beginning to question the world or reality around them.
Definitely so. I know. I mean, obviously, I've not yet been to your conference, but everything I've seen about it makes me think that you are doing the right thing here. And yeah, I mean, obviously, to some degrees, we're all going to do a bit of preaching to the converted. But what I always like to hope is that those people that we're reaching out to will then take this out more widely. Because yeah, if it only stays in a very narrow box, it's not going to reach all the people that it needs to reach. But that thing about the approach, having the right approach, that's the kind of thing that will take this information out. And so that when family say, what did you do this weekend? And then you say, I went to the Open Minds Conference. And they go, what's all that about then? That you try to at least get them engaged to show interest. And of course there will be an element of ridicule from people that don't understand, and an element of just not wanting to hear it. But what I find in my own life is that when you sort of just share it with them as well, I'm intrigued by this, they often will then start to ask you the questions. Well, why? Whereas if I say, my God, you should have been there and it's a disgrace that you don't know this stuff, immediately you've got onto the wrong foot there. So, yeah, it needs to go beyond the choir. But, I reiterate, it's the approach that matters.
And just on that as well, I don't know if you're aware of that quote. I always wondered why somebody doesn't do something about that. Then I realised I was that somebody. Are you familiar with that quote?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people have said to me, oh, this is your conference or our conference. It's actually everyone's conference. And I think people that are awake and aware, whether you're a free thinker or an activist, you know what, to buy a ticket, to support it, to come along. And, because as Andy knows, to organise these events, it's a huge undertaking and a challenge. And, the more of these events that take place, I think the better. So, come along, support it and, meet like minds. And maybe you might learn something as well over the weekend. Because, as I mentioned already, it's not about everyone agreeing with every speaker, every single word every speaker says. Some speakers will resonate with you more than others. And that's okay too, as I'm sure Andy agrees, and Mary Ellen as well. So there's something in it for everyone,
Yeah.
It covers a variety of topics and subjects, and come along and enjoy.
Something I'd just like to pick up on what Andy said there, and again, it's probably some people's perception of the whole sheeple mentality that there's a lack of intelligence. It's actually nothing got to do with intelligence whatsoever. It's got to do with perception, as we all know, because if it was got to do with intelligence, all the academics would be open-minded. So it's all got to do with perception, really, on how people perceive the world and what they've grown up, the world they've grown up into, and the people around them. And this is something that we will be talking about on the actual conference. Steve, you wanted to jump in there and say something?
Just in relation to sheeple, I mean, yeah, we have, on occasion, used that word, and I think Andy is correct. We do need to show compassion, because before I awoke and before you awoke and before every one of us here awoke, there were other people who were awake. You know what I mean? I mean, and they obviously would refer to us as sheeple. And if someone came up back then in 2000 or whatever and said to me, you need to learn this, you need to know this, I would have gone, yeah, why? It was a case of why should I want to? Why would it bother? My life is okay as it is, and how is that going to enrich my life? Blah 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 blah. So I would have been referred to as sheeple, and I mean that's probably the worst way to get someone interested in the subject, is to berate them. Oh, you're a sheeple. You don't know. I mean, if someone tells you don't know something, what are you going to do? You're not going to go, well, I'm going to go and research it. No, you're not. You're going to go, F you.
Yeah. No, you have to. Again, one of the things that myself and Steve will be talking about is actually this approach to waking people up. And it's more so got to do with asking questions as opposed to giving them the information. Because by asking questions, you can gauge, how much they know or what they want to know or what upsets them and all that. But we won't go into our talk on air. You can come to the Open Minds Conference and listen to myself and Steve talk about it.
And Alan will have his baseball bat of truth and knowledge.
And lads, have you ever come across the type of person who thinks to know it all?
Oh, yeah.
It's been said to me a few times where, oh, why should I go along to that conference? I know all that stuff already,
But we're learning every day. I mean, I learned today, for example. I'll give you an example, and I thank the lady. I got a phone call. She's probably tuning in tonight from a lady, and she was telling me she just rang the OYM hotline, and I rang her back, and we were talking about certain things that she was saying, and she said, "Do you know what law stands for?" And I said, "No, I don't." And she said, "It actually stands for land, air, and water." Now, I didn't know that. And I said, well, no, I didn't know that. And I said, thanks a lot. I learned something today to her. So every day we learn from everybody. So we should never be complacent or arrogant in thinking that we know it all and seen it all and done it all. Because we're learning all the time. And that's the beauty of this subject matter. And to have so many speakers over a 3-day period and to have all that information given to you, because the person that actually thinks they know everything is definitely arrogant, because you don't. Nobody knows everything about this whole jigsaw, this joint jigsaw. There's so much. These rabbit holes go down so deep that it's unbelievable. But so that was something I learned today, and I didn't know that. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, the next time, obviously, if Trevor comes across people who reckon, oh, I know all that stuff, right? Invite them down. Well, okay, that's another reason why you should definitely come down, because you need to speak at it. You need to tell people.
Yeah, exactly. Invite them down and get them talking. But then again, you do get some people, and I'm sure you guys come across them. We've heard about doing radio shows, and people get what we call mic shy. And they will tell you that, oh yeah, I can do a radio show, no problem at all, anytime. And this has happened, and we know it's happened because we were told it happened, where the person said, oh yeah, all the bravado was there, and then when they got the countdown to 3, 2, 1 to go live, that's it. They just went quiet, couldn't say anything at all. They went completely mic shy. And so to get up on stage, as we will be doing, and talking to an audience, I mean, is nerve-wracking for a lot of people, because the two things that we are afraid of is death and public speaking. So, I think, and I'm not...
Death is number 2, by the way.
Is it? Okay, thanks for that. But it's just gas that, I'm not saying that we should pat ourselves on the back, but, I mean, it's standing in front of the public and talking a lot of the time is outside people's comfort zone. But because we have the moral conscience and we want to educate and learn from people as well, we do it. And I'm sure you guys are the same. Mary Helen, what's your take on the conference? Give us your... You've done the Basis conference, but is this your first time doing the Open Minds conference?
This is my first time doing the Open Minds conference. So I'm very excited about that. I've been in the States since June and got back here the first week of September. And that last weekend of August, I was actually in Seattle doing the International Association for Near-Death Studies conference. And I was speaking with a fellow called Dr. Evan Alexander. If you've heard of him, he's a neurosurgeon who had near-death experience. But what I found was so interesting about that particular conference was that so many of the people who were there, and that's a very specific subject, so many of the people were there were not people who had actually experienced it, but were there because they were curious about what these people had to say. Now, there were so many different levels of people. There were those who had experiences that never told another person. There were those who had experiences who were on the stage speaking. And then there were those who had never personally experienced something but had heard about it and were captivated and intrigued. And I think that's what this conference really embodies here, because it, like Trevor said many times before, it's got something for everyone at all stages of growth and development. And I think it's really, really important that that's there, and that we create a space for those who have seen and done it all. Like you said about radio, in my job as a doctor all these years, I have heard more times than I can shake a stick at somebody said, "Oh, I've tried everything." It's like the person who's on the chronic diet and they're, it won't work for me. I've tried everything. Well, nobody's tried everything. You're going to get that across the board kind of in any practice, I think. So this type of conference allows multiple levels for different people and where their experience is. I can remember after my car accident and having had a death experience and gone to the other side and come back to tell the tale. I remember experiencing a period of anger, and I was really angry because I was raised in the Bible Belt of America. As a Southern Baptist, my father was a minister, and none of the things that they had told me all of my life, and I spent every Sunday going to their church and every Wednesday singing in the children's choir, and my life revolved around that belief system. And I go and I have my own experience, and I come back and I was like, hold on a second. Everything you told me was going to happen did not happen. Now, as a youngster, you realize that that was the way I perceived it then. Obviously, with age comes wisdom, and you look back and you're like, oh, man, it was only better. It was just bigger, more expansive, fantastic, and I've made my life around writing and speaking about it. But I have such compassion and understanding for the people who were trapped in that particular mindset or belief system. Here in Ireland, Catholicism has played a major role in that. A lot of people have been captivated by a particular belief system. And in my line of work, I'll never be out of work because of guilt. This country is riddled with guilt. And, so I love something like the Open Minds Conference because it offers something for everyone. It offers something for that person who might be in that angry stage, or that person who can be over the top and all they can talk about is conspiracy, or that person who is looking to find that nugget of truth that they can apply to their own personal story. It's for that person who thinks that they do know the answers to everything, who then suddenly hears something that blows that out of the water. That's why these conferences are so important. And this one in particular, because of the variety that we've got on offer. I mean, you guys, the likes of what I'll be talking about, Andy. I mean, it's just we're covering so many different things, yet we all end up in the same destination.
Totally. Well, I want to do kind of a 360. It's something that they do in the corporate world when they do appraisals, and I want to do a 360 on the speakers and Trevor as well, because I think, sometimes people who are involved in a certain subject in the actual truth movement can have a lot of invested time and energy into it. And that's brilliant because they get very knowledgeable about the subject matter. But what I've seen is that sometimes that the investment is so they've spent so much time investing their time in the subject matter that when their belief system is challenged, not so much challenge is probably the wrong word, but when somebody comes along and kind of disagrees with what the research, and there's even evidence to prove what's being said, that they've spent so much time invested in the subject matter that they're still not, they're afraid to actually change their belief system. So do you feel that as speakers that it's important for us also, and for people who are going to be speaking at the Open Mind Conference, to also have I hate to say it again, a fluid belief system, and that we should also be challenging the subject matter that we talk about? Because I know that, myself and Steve would say it, what we know today is what we know we'll talk about, but tomorrow if it changes and it contradicts what we know today, we're happy to change it. And that's the whole idea of the fluid belief system. Do you reckon that we have we're prepared to do that as speakers? I've only talked to myself, Steve, Andy, and Mary Helen, obviously, because we're only on the show, and Trevor as well. But Andy, what do you think? What do you think of that? Are we able to do that as well?
I think we should be able to. I mean, just to pick up on something that Trevor said earlier on, when you organise an event, and I've been running the Glastonbury Symposium with a team of people now I've been involved for well over 20 years. What you realise is, as somebody said, maybe it was you, Trevor, you don't know everything. And I try to sit and watch every speaker. So, we'll have 18 speakers generally over a weekend. And I've realised that it is very easy to get stuck into your own bubble where, all that seems to matter is your thing. But what I find is, if I just sit through everything, and, the speakers that I will book, I don't necessarily book them because I think it's my thing. I'm trying to make something that will appeal to many different people and bring threads together. But often things that I have thought would not be of interest, actually I've come out of it having learned something that connects with something else. Mm-hmm. By the other end of the whole weekend, you'll often find a theme has emerged between otherwise completely different speakers. Themes emerge and bits begin to connect. And we should never be so arrogant as to think we've got nothing more to learn, because often, a single little sentence has sent me off on a whole new way of thinking, which in the end will flower, somewhere else along the way. So, yeah, we should always be open to new learning, new experiences. And sure, we know what we know and we share it as best we can, but we should always be willing to move forward and not get set into that dogmatic mindset, which is then what creates a lot of trouble on social media and people having arguments because they're not listening, they're not growing, they're not open to learning. So, yeah, I absolutely think that there's an awful lot we can learn by hearing things that maybe we wouldn't have come across otherwise. And when you go to an event like this, that's where you get that opportunity. You're getting a right across the board glimpse into all kinds of alternative thinking, for want of a better word. And it's great. And the more people that do it, the better.
Definitely.
And definitely, can I follow on from that?
Yep.
I mean, I would encourage people to, you know what, like challenge yourself and your own belief system. Because I've had people say to me as well, oh, well, you know what, I don't really agree with that speaker. I'm not going to go to that one. It doesn't really strike a chord with me. And I'm going to say to them, well, you know what, that's maybe the one that you should be going along to actually challenge yourself. And at the end of it, you're still more than entitled to keep your own opinion.
Yeah. Trevor, I think we lost you again there. Go ahead.
Yeah, at the end of it, I mean, like, we can all agree to differ and respectfully debate, and you're still entitled to hold on to your own view.
Yeah.
You know, but I think, like, one of the things that we really got right with this conference is balance, and, you know, both the yin and the yang, you know, and at the end of the day, like, you have to shine a light on the dark to make it light.
Yeah.
And it's not productive just to look at all the positive and ignore the negative.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I mean, like, with the conference, it's very much solutions focus, and with remedies as well. So, like, the whole ethos of it is that, like, you know, we can change this reality by our own thoughts and our actions. And for every problem and challenge, like, there are solutions. But it requires a higher energy than what created the problem. I think what Albert Einstein once says, like, you can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we created them. So the Open Minds Conference and the Glastonbury Symposium, and the Alternative View Conference as well in the UK, you know, these events are fantastic platforms, like, for like minds to come together, and, you know, let's have a weekend.
Yeah, I think we lost you there again there, Trevor. Okay, Mary Helen, what's your take on it?
Well, I think, you know, first of all, from the speaker standpoint, I know you guys, being in radio, are challenged with this all of the time. And what I absolutely love about this is the opportunity to be live on the spot. I think it is a wonderful way for, as a speaker, as an author, as an experiencer who is constantly trying to accept and grow and reinvent. I think being on that spot where people have the chance to ask you a question about what just came out of your mouth, and that you actually have to think and to integrate the things that you've learned at the weekend. It's why I never use notes when I speak, because I will sit in there and listen to everybody talk, and I will be bringing in things that I have heard and learned and grown with as I have listened to them, and I will integrate that into what I say as well. And I just think I love that challenge. I love being recorded live. I love being in front of an audience where people can actually put the hand up and go, hang on a second. And you aren't just, you know, it isn't just a monologue, and you're not just staying within that bubble, as was said before. You know, just that, I love that atmosphere. And so I think any time that any of us can get ourselves in the audience of or surrounded by people who are sharing thoughts in the moment, and it's different than reading a book. It's different than listening to a pre-recorded show. It's that moment, that synergistic exchange of energy, that opportunity to learn something new in the moment together with that group mentality. You know, we hear often about the dangerous effects of that herd mentality in that group, but there are also some tremendous side effects of raising a vibration and energy and addressing subjects consciously as a group as well, because the energy that can be put into that is second to none. So I look forward to it for that reason. I'm really, really excited about, again, being here on my home turf again. It's been a while because I've been traveling around doing conferences in America. And so I'm really excited to be doing something of this caliber here in Ireland. And I'm thrilled for all of the many people out there that I know this is of interest to.
It's brilliant that it's available and that it's being done. This is the thing. It's brilliant that Trevor and the team got together and actually set it up, because Ireland tends to be a third world country a lot of the time, and we don't have what goes on in other countries. So to actually have this opportunity to go to a place where you can meet like-minded people and listen to this information is gold dust.
Well, it's also very important too, guys, because, you know, like I said, I've been in the States since June. Obviously, I'm from the States, but, you know, my home is here. My kids were born here. They go to school here. But because I had a lot going on this summer, we took off in June. And it's interesting to be able to get somebody's different perspective, because for a lot of people over here, what they're hearing about, you know, Trump and the politics in America are of importance to us on a global scale. And what we hear tends to be what we see in the news, on our news feeds, on Facebook, on Twitter. And it's so interesting because to be able to step out of here for a while and to land on the East Coast and to go down to the South where my mother is from and to see stuff everywhere. It was Trump, 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 Trump stuff everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And then 2 weeks later, I take off to California and I was working in LA and I didn't hear the man's name for probably 8 weeks. And we get these mindsets and these beliefs and these thoughts about what we think is going on. And until you actually step into that reality and you witness and see it firsthand, you know, because so many of our perceptions are shaped by what we're seeing on media. And, you know, really that's some people's only access to it. That's what tends to shape their belief systems. And, you know, you go in and I go home and I'm like, oh, it's not really the center of attention the way you see it on the news right now. Like, I swear to you, in almost a period of 2 months, I swear if I heard his name once, it was, that was it.
Interesting.
You know?
Okay, just going to go off to Steve. Steve, just your take on the whole idea of the speakers keeping an open mind and a fluid belief system.
Well, I think that's paramount. There's no point in someone standing up on a podium and saying something that they believe to be true, but there's enough evidence to prove that it may be untrue. I think everyone has, as you used the words earlier on, due diligence. I think everyone has to do that. And I mean, the world is a changing place. There's things are changing all the time, and if we're just going to get, you know, stuck in the mindset of this is what we believe today, tomorrow and forever after, without challenging ourselves from time to time, I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves, and we're also doing a disservice to anyone who we stand up in front of and preach to, as they say. But I mean, the conference it is a great thing. I know this is number 2, hopefully number 2 of many. I mean, when you look back on history and you see what can be done. I mean, you had a man who answered to the name, allegedly answered to the name of Jesus, and he had 12 people, and look what they done. I mean, when you think about it, they invented a religion, and it's worldwide. So I mean, you know, there's no reason why the Open Minds Conference can't go the same way.
Well, I don't think it'd be a religion though.
Well, it doesn't have to be a religion. I mean, it can be a following of truthers, if you like, people who are seeking knowledge,
like-minded people. Yeah. The one thing that myself and Steve have come across over the 8.5 years of doing OYM is that we've had in the past, you know, guests coming on the show, and they'd give their belief and their point of view, and then we'd have the next week we might have another guest on, and they'd give their viewpoint and their point of view, and they'd say, oh, no, that person's wrong, I'm right, and then the other person be saying, that person's wrong, I'm right. So this is why we kind of maybe formulated the whole idea of a fluid belief system, because everybody's, as we say, on a path of knowledge, and some people might be further down the path than others. So we have to kind of keep that in mind to how our belief system works. And again, this is something that we'll be talking about, and just be aware of that and be willing to change when new information comes in, and evidence, not speculation and opinion, but actual fact and information, and then we'd be happy to change. Then there's no shocks to the system. But we'll be talking about that at the Open Mind Conference. So Andy, what else are you're saying you're doing 2 shows there down at the Open Minds Conference, and this is your first time over here. do you reckon that, are you involved in other conferences in the UK? Did you say you set up your own conference over there?
Well, I mean, for years I've been running a group in West Sussex, which is in the southeast of England. So we've been running for 27 years now, and we started off looking at things like UFOs and crop circles, and we're still running, still having lectures now. So I'm doing that, and we organise those. But the Glastonbury Symposium, that's been running for 28 years now, and I've been going along for at least 25 of those years, and running it, I think, for about 22 years with the rest of the guys and girls. So, I mean, I've had a long sort of, if you like, experience of doing stuff like this. But there's a note that I want to sound here, which is, I think, really important. It's a slightly worrying note, but it's an important note about having these live events. When the internet came along and suddenly, went big, suddenly we could all have incredible conversations, and a lot of information that did not get shared before in the same way suddenly was out there. And, people like yourselves doing the show you're doing now, this is fantastic. But I think it's under threat. I think freedom of speech is now a serious issue with the internet. And if anybody wants any evidence of that, look at the amount of stuff that's getting taken down off of YouTube or demonetized so that people can't afford to put this stuff up anymore. Things that are being pushed further and further down search engines. When you look at Google, something that you would have found on page 1 once upon a time is now on page 5, which most people won't find. I do think there is concerted effort to push out anything considered remotely alternative or that which challenges the status quo to the fringes, so that most people in the mainstream won't find it. And this is something that I'll be referring to a bit in my second talk. And therefore, that makes it ever more important to have a real grassroots sharing of this information. I think print is going to come back. I think printing, pamphlets, books, in the end, could be the only way to get some of this stuff circulated, but also live events. Until the day they actually try and shut down live events, and I think that will be going too far, I think that the more we can reach out to people with things like this, the better. Because even that is under threat. Certainly here in England, I mean, you've got this whole no platforming business where especially a lot of students are being encouraged to shut down any event that they just don't like. And they'll brand it, fascist or whatever, even though it's not, even though it's a completely legal point of view. And what they're doing is bursting into events, trying to shut them down, trying to stop people speaking. So that sadly is bubbling up. But on the whole, we can mount live events, but that attitude is, I think, going to start to pervade more and more online. And certain events which, we've been able to hold and talk about over the last few years with a very free internet, that is changing. And I think we must never take for granted that the net's going to be some kind of window into truth, because it does look to me like there's a lot of people that want to shut that down. So the more we can meet people, network with people at events, actually have kind of real meetings with genuine human beings, that's how we're going to get this stuff out there, because we need to keep these conduits open. Because I think the authorities know the internet was the genie coming out of the bottle, and now with all the stuff over fake news and all of this, they're using that as a perfect excuse to try and stick it back in. And we mustn't let them do that, but it does mean we do need to keep all other conduits alive, and I do think that's very important.
I think you're right there about the print media. Now, over here in Ireland, when we first started, there was a magazine or a newspaper called The Sovereign Independent, and it was way ahead of its time. And it was brilliant. And we've talked about this before on the show time and time again, and we still have a few copies of The Sovereign Independent, but it was ahead of its time. And I'm pretty sure if that came out today, it would be snapped up by people, because there's a hell of a lot more people wide awake now and open up to reading stuff or getting the alternative storyline to what's being told by the fake media, then and I think it'd be very important to get that out. Now, we did mention it to the original people about doing it, but there was so much stress with organising that and getting it organised. I don't think you want to go down that road, but maybe with funding somewhere down the road, maybe that's a possibility. And I think you're right, Andy. I think having, especially people who are not on the internet or don't know how to use the internet, where you can sit down with your cup of tea and have a read and bring it anywhere with you. You don't have to have a mobile phone or a tablet or anything like that. You can sit down anywhere and read it. I think you can't beat an old newspaper and a bit of reading. And I think that's where we'll probably end up going.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there is going to have to be a return to that. I mean, I'll just do a plug for Nexus magazine, actually. I'm pretty sure you must have had Marcus Allen on your show before, but Nexus magazine is probably the best kind of window into this kind of world that you can actually buy in WH Smith. And thank God that has kept going. Because like you say, the Sovereign Independent and a number of other publications, we used to have a lot of stuff like that. Unfortunately, many of them have vanished. Nexus has managed to keep going, but I think we need more. And I do think the more that the internet starts to shut this kind of material out, the more we're going to have to go back literally to the printing press. In the old days, as soon as there was a revolution, right, the first thing you try and do is get a hold of all the printing presses. And when the authorities stepped in, the first thing they try and do is shut them all down. So we're seeing the same thing now, but with the internet. But they always used to find it very hard in the old days to literally shut down every physical printing press, and we might be going back to those days, secret presses in secret rooms trying to get this stuff out there. I mean, I hope it doesn't go to that, but I do feel there is a risk of it, and certainly I'm very concerned about freedom of speech being taken away very, very widely at the moment, and it's almost so insidious you're not noticing it. Well, we are probably, but a lot of people, they're not realising what's going on under their very noses, and we need, through every conduit we can, to get this stuff out there.
Definitely. Well, we haven't actually spoken to Marcus Allen from Nexus, but if you would like to come on the show, we'd love to speak to him.
You need to have Marcus Allen, without any question. This is a man you need to speak to.
Okay, well, if you can send us his contact details, we'd be happy to get him on the show. Trevor, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I mean, just following on again from what Andy's saying, you can't beat meeting people in the physical. And it's the vibration and the energy is amazing at these events. Even from Andy's Glastonbury event, I was buzzing for a week or two afterwards after I came home from it. And I'm sure you guys know from, I think you're at last year's Open Minds, were you?
No, the Basis Conference we spoke at.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think you came down for a day, didn't you, to the Open Minds one?
That's right.
Yeah. So.
That was last year. Yeah, I came down.
Last year, yeah.
I came down last year, and that was very interesting. And meeting Harvey Oswald's girlfriend at the time of the whole JFK assassination was very interesting. Judy, wasn't it? Judy?
That's right. That's right. But Dooley's hotel, the actual location of the Open Minds conference, the buzz that was created was amazing over the weekend. And the atmosphere, it's the whole overall experience, for me, it's wonderful. And, even bystanders and people staying at the hotel kind of looking on, well, what's going on there, And it really was something to behold. So this is going to be even better in a couple of weeks. And I'm so looking forward to it.
By the way, Trevor, I booked my room for, obviously, on the Friday night, and I actually complimented Dooley's Hotel on staging the Open Mind Conference and said fair play to them, because you never know. It's always good to compliment hotels when they're doing things like this, so they know that they're getting positive feedback from people saying it's a good idea.
That's right. I mean, they've been so supportive, and last year, they were very impressed by the people that attended the conference. It was all good vibes and happy feeling. There was no trouble, or it's just a great experience.
Yeah.
And may I say, I mean, I'm so looking forward, by the way, to hearing Mary Helen and Andy speak at the conference. I've heard both of them speak. I heard Mary Helen last year at the Basis conference, remember, in Dublin.
Yes.
And Mary, I have to say, you blew me away. You were the best speaker of the whole weekend.
Oh, no, that's favoritism. That's favoritism.
No, Alan and Steve.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
What's that? Sorry.
Between Alan and Steve, sorry.
Sorry, Trevor, we're having problem with your audio here.
She's breaking up.
It's because I had on that alien sweatshirt, guys.
Yeah. But also, like, may I come in and say, you know what, like anyone who hasn't seen Andy speak is in for a treat as well. Because, you know, Andy spoke at the Glastonbury Symposium. He just doesn't organise it. He speaks at it as well. And I have to say, Andy, you really, you know, you blew me away as well. I mean, Andy's the type of guy, and so is Mary Helen. You know, you guys, when you speak, people listen. And you have so much charisma, you know, it's electric. So.
Well, I think people have pretty good truth detectors, BS meters, whatever you want to call it. And I think they can resonate with someone who they know is in earnest trying to share something that has happened in their own lives that might be different than as Andy calls it, the status quo, and might shed some light on a completely different perspective. I mean, my life is changing and evolving on a daily basis, and I see things that are new to me. And I think it's important what Andy was talking about with the written word. Me, you know, of course, Andy, yourself too, as an author, I tell everybody I meet who tells me a great story, I'm like, you really need to write that down. Because all we have are the experiences, you know, that we have had. And the only way that we can change perspective from that which possibly the government wants us to have on the world around us, you know, to keep things steady and even and steady, is other people's experiences. And so I tell people constantly, please write that down. And it's the only way that we have something to give back. And, you know, all of us here being in that near 50 and over category, I presume, I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we have to bring, is that we're old school. Because I know for me, you know, I before I had my car accident and when I was graduating college, I was a computer graphic arts and communications major. And I remember my senior year of college, after 3 years of college and learning how to do graphics by hand, they walked in with this big box of a yoke and they're like, this is the future. And I was like, what the hell is that? And it was a computer. And I had done everything by hand. I knew how to do everything by hand. I knew how to write by hand. I knew how to type. I knew how to, you know, and I think it's going to be a very valuable tool that those of us who are still only kind of midway through the journey of this lifetime, have those skills. It's wonderful that the millennials have those great computer skills, but what's so special about those of us here now on this transition team is we've got a foot in both worlds. And I think that's where we have the most to give.
Yeah, I totally agree. And as I mentioned about earlier on in the interview about, I'm actually walking away from technology now. I've been involved in it for so long, professionally and everything else, that I'm now enjoying working with my hands in the men's shed, doing woodwork and making things and all that, enjoying that more now than, you know, dealing with technology. So it's as you say, Mary Helen, you're correct there. We are the last generation that will have feet in both sides of being able to do both, because God forbid, if anything happened to the planet, or anything happened where last week we were talking about David Dubois about the solar minimum and the weather patterns changing, and you know, there's going to be millennials struggling because they just won't know how to cope and do basic things that we would take for granted, how to light a fire even, you know. So it's going to be if the young people can get down to the conference, it's going to be very, very educational for them, because they learn a hell of a lot. Unfortunately, folks, we've reached that time in the evening. Thank you for everyone, for Andy, Mary Helen and Trevor, for coming on the show. Much appreciated. I'm going to start off with Mary Helen. Mary Helen, if you want to give us all your contact details and where people can find you, and then we'll go to Andy and go to Trevor, and we'll give Trevor the last say. Mary.
Super. Yeah, I'm MaryHelenHensley.com. It's HENSLEY. And I'm on Facebook, Dr. Mary Helen Hensley, author. We're currently out in all the bookstores at the moment with the new book, Bringing Death to Life. that I authored with Patricia Scanlon and Aidan Story and Pamela Young. And so I'm kind of all over the place, and good old snail mail works too. But yeah, that's me. So MaryHelenHensley.com. And guys, I'm really looking forward to seeing you at the conference. And Andy, I can't wait to sit in on yours. We've got things to talk about.
Fantastic, Andy.
Well, if anybody wants to know more about what I'm up to, my website is truthagenda.org, and you can find out where I'm speaking, upcoming lectures, and about the different books. And if you want to have a look at the Glastonbury Symposium and have a look at that for next year, that's very simple, glastonburysymposium.co.uk.
Brilliant. And Trevor, we'll leave the last word to you.
Brilliant. Okay, you can get tickets for the Open Minds Conference through Eventbrite and also on our website at openmindsconference.com. So that's Open Minds with an S, conference.com. Come along, get your tickets.
Oh, we lost you again.
There's 18 speakers, plus music, drumming, yoga, meditation, everything but the kitchen.
I think that's the kitchen sink you were saying there.
The sink is sunk.
Yeah. You there, Trevor? We lost you again.
18 speakers, meditation, yoga, drumming, music, the whole lot. As I said, even the kitchen sink. So we see you all there. And listen, lads, thanks for dedicating a whole show to the Open Minds Conference. Really appreciate it. Thanks
That's okay,
very much.
no problem. Okay.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, Mary. See you, Mary Helen. See you, Andy.
Thank you. Take care.
All right,
See you
guys.
guys.
Just stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to pop up to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and UnitedWeStrike.com.
Okay, and we're back. That was a little bit of Bryan Adams and Tina Turner. Can't Stop This Thing. We started, that was especially for Trevor and all the gang at Open Minds Conference. Let's hope we can't stop this thing that's been started.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there was a question that was asked on Skype, I believe, about cryptocurrency. If you open up Skype there, Steve, and Trevor just replied to it there. If you want to read it out.
Yes, we did get the question earlier. Well, apologies for not getting to all the questions. We did have some questions, but they weren't actually relevant to the Open Minds Conference, so therefore they were thrown in the bin. Well, they weren't thrown in the bin, but they weren't read. But in relation to speakers for cryptocurrency, Trevor says no cryptocurrency speakers, but we have David Walsh speaking on the banking system, who may touch on cryptocurrency, but no actual dedicated speaker. That was a question that came in earlier from Moon Girl on PIR.
Brilliant stuff. Right, well, there's great information. It's going to be a great weekend at the Open Mind Conference. Loads of speakers and, approachable people. I mean, if you have a question or you want to go up and meet people and, say hello to Andy or Mary or Trevor or anybody, the opportunity is there for you to do so and ask any questions, because sometimes, you're doing a talk and you say to the audience, do you have any questions? And people do have a question, but they don't want to ask the question because they might feel that it's personal, or they might feel that's a bit silly and stuff like that. So the Open Mind Conference gives you the opportunity where you can actually go up to the speaker after their talk and just say, well, listen, I have a question for you, but I didn't want to say it in front of the people, and it's X, Y, and Z. So it gives you that opportunity and to meet them and everything else. And it's great that Ireland, that we're having these conferences. Now, I know a few years ago, the Sovereign Independent did a few as well, going back to, the early days. Well, early days, 2011, 2012.
That's right, yeah. I just said even those conferences were way ahead of their time.
They were way ahead of their time. So the guys at the Sovinda were doing a great job. They weren't just doing the actual magazine. They were actually doing the conference as well. And we were there. And we did actually some of the interviews for the guys in the Sovereign Independent. They said that they wanted to produce some videos. And they asked us, would we go in and interview the speakers? And they put it on video. And some of them videos are on our YouTube page at the moment.
That's right. We actually got to meet and have a chat with Andrew Wakefield.
Yeah, and
Very nice
Ian
man.
Crane was on there, Jim Corr was on there, Kevin from Tina Sore was on there. We did a few actual video interviews, and they're all there on our YouTube, so you can check them out. Now it's going back a few years, but worthwhile seeing anyway, and see what you think. So all in all, a good weekend for everybody there to be chatting away and finding out loads and loads of information. And it's up to everybody to pass on the information, wake people up, and it's funny, I had to go down and get a part for a central heating system, and I suppose in a way OYM has been around a long time, and for people that's been
we're doing plumbing now as well.
Well, for people that's been in the movement and who are local, you would think that they've kind of heard of OYM, but it kind of puts us in our place really, because I did meet a guy that he was also a heating engineer who had sold parts. Cut long story short, I had to buy the parts, but I found out he was a bit of an activist as well. And he said, "Do you know such and such?" "Oh, yeah. All the regular people that we knew, that's been involved in it." And he said, what do you do? What are you involved in? And I said, well, I'm involved in a radio show. And I said, Open Your Mind Radio. Have you heard of us? And he said, no. And this guy only lives about 20 minutes away. And he's an activist. So obviously we have to do a bit of PR and marketing on OYM. Because he hasn't heard of us, which is, so I said, oh, okay, that's fair enough. Here's a business card. And I said, we have all the people that you've heard on the show. So you can have a listen, tune in. So it kind of puts our feet firmly on the ground, So obviously we have a lot of PR and marketing to do with OYM, but there you go. That was a funny story. Now, next week we have a chap from the In Power movement called Carl Washington. And Carl is going to be talking to us all about the legal system, common law, and how the actual elites control the actual legal system, and the things we don't understand and the things we may understand. So that's going to be very interesting to get Carl on and to talk about that. He's done a few videos on YouTube as well, or with the In Power movement, and if you go to YouTube and type Carl Washington, you'll actually see the videos there and give you an idea what he's like and what he talks about. So that's going to be interesting. He's agreed to come on the show and have a chat to us about that. Also, what we're going to get an update. We've asked Thomas to come back on the show to get an update from Thomas from Truth, Honour Integrity. And there's a lot going on Thomas's side with the foundation and what he's doing, what he's involved in. So it's been a good few weeks now since we've had Thomas on. The last time we had Thomas on, we had him on with Randy. But this time he'll be on his own, and we'll get an update and we'll chat with Thomas and find out what's going on there with the foundation and everything. And also we have Dr. Rima coming on with not only Dr. Rima as a medical doctor with 44 years experience, but we're bringing her attorney on the show as well. And
is she suing us?
No, but it'd be handy having the legal side as well. And she has a book out got to do with healing autism. So that's going to be interesting to talk about, plus the vaccine side as well. And we did mention on the show that the political party over here in Ireland called People Before Profit are pro-vaccine, which was a bit of a shock to the system. And they did a video promoting pro-vaccine. So obviously it's doing the rounds at the moment. So I will be informing people I know on my Facebook who are People Before Profit. I will be inviting them to listen to the show when Dr. Ream is on it, and to get Dr. Ream's point of view being a medical doctor, and then let them make up their own mind. If they have a fluid belief system or they're not afraid to change their mind, then that would be great. But, we do talk about this, and we do talk about whether some people have a belief system they're happy to change, or whether they're really stuck in it and they're closed-minded, and that's my belief and I'm not going to change. Well, guess what? You don't learn if you're not willing to change and challenge what you believe. But that's going to be our talk down in the Open Minds Conference. You got on plan for the week? What's happening? What's going on?
Not too much. Back to, probably like a lot of people, back to work in the morning. So we're just going to take it as it comes, That's all we can do.
Okay. Do we have anybody on PIR later on? Any information on that?
No, there's no one at all. Yeah, we do actually. Well, first of all, I wanted to say thanks to everyone who joined us on the chat rooms tonight, both OYM and on PIR. You're all very welcome. Well, it was nice being in your company. Barry Prince is up next on People's Internet Radio with the big puzzles, and he's going to be talking about common law for the first hour. So do stay tuned for that. And also we've been asked to give a plug for the Three Amigos, L3 Amigos on People's Internet Radio tomorrow evening from, I think it's from 9 o'clock. There's going to be a brilliant discussion with cook guests. Anyway, Mark Salon from Get Out of Debt Free is going to be on. All are very welcome for a chat and questions. They're going to be discussing debt instruments and empowering men and women to navigate the jolly high seas of commerce. So that's going to be very interesting. Again, that's tomorrow evening, 9 o'clock on PIR.
I'll be keeping an eye on the whole Kavanagh thing as well, because he's voted in. It's interesting because the United States, the petrodollar, that's the playground at the moment with what's going on with the deep state. So it's important kind of keep an eye on that. Don't get too involved in the program. Don't get too tied up with it that it's consuming your life. Just keep an interest in it and keep an eye on what's being said. And then if you do come across any information that's of interest, obviously let us know, any videos and stuff like that, and we'll have a look at that and try and get that review it for chat maybe on the show next week. But for myself, Alan James, take it easy, stay safe. If you have any reports of technology gone down, or if you're having problems with technology, let us know, because myself and Steve are having major problems with technology, and that's one of the things that was said, that with all the energy changes that are taking place, it's affecting technology no end, and we're having our fair share of problems here. But from myself anyway, take care, bye-bye.
Yeah, okay, it's just coming up to 9 o'clock. Actually, it's about 45 seconds away from 9 o'clock. I can take all night, but I won't. Yeah, stay tuned anyway. Barry Prince is up next. We've had a absolutely fantastic show here this evening. Remember, if you're listening to this on a podcast during the week and you enjoyed what you heard, do consider coming along to the conference. You can check out our website there. You will see the link, oymradio.com. You will see a link down the bottom to the conference.
And can I just quickly add as well, people could you please do a bit of PR for OYM as well? If you are talking to friends and family, tell them about OYM Radio, because we need to spread the word, get the information out there. Just, in passing, if you can, that'd be much appreciated. Oh, and very quickly, Claire Leonard, we heard about poor Claire, had her arm broken in 2 places by a thug who evicted her from the home. Claire is one of the very, very brave activists that's been around a long time. Sorry to hear about Claire, and maybe we can, do something about that. Maybe we can get a 20-minute interview if we can, if she's able. We'll try and get in touch with her. Cheers.
Okay, stay tuned for Barry. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Open your mind.